Now, what you want to do is structure the situation so that it happens as organically as possible, but so that it does happen. So there's a few things that are going to need to be going on. Number one, you need to be escalating the situation. And when I say escalate, I mean escalating in a few different ways. You can escalate the topic of conversation, you can escalate the intimacy of the conversation, i.e. if it's about the two of you as opposed to about you individually. You can escalate physically, and then you can actually make moves towards going home. So those are 4 different modes of escalation. Those all need to kind of be happening, but they should be happening kind of at a similar pace. So you don't want to, for example, be getting super, super physical to the point of almost like having sex with a girl in a bar and have not addressed the idea of going home, have not like gotten her name and built any intimacy, have not like discussed any sort of like what you are to each other, because that's going to make her feel slutty and kind of make it harder for you to get those other steps. On the other hand, you don't want to be discussing, how you're going to name your children, having not gotten physical and just sitting in one place at the bar and not moving her around anywhere. So these all kind of need to go in conjunction. If one goes too far out of whack with the other ones, that's going to mess you up. So again, you want to be escalating the topic of conversation, the intimacy of the conversation, i.e. how much it's about the two of you and what the nature of your relationship is, the physicality, and then also the logistics, the actual physical movement. So be aware that they all need to kind of go together, okay? But when it comes to actually moving the girl home, what you want to do is seed it before you do it. If you get to the end of the night and you haven't really broached a topic and all of a sudden you're like, okay, let's get out of here, let's go to my place, you're gonna almost always get a no to that. In any sales situation, and taking your girl home or almost anything in game is essentially a sales situation, you need to be asking for the order early on. You need to be getting the objections out of the way, because almost never are you gonna get someone to come just say yes without saying a few no's in there, without giving some objections, some resistance, some reasons, that sort of thing. So it's much better to actually find out what objections might exist 15 minutes into the date as opposed to 3 hours into the date when there's no longer time to deal with them. So what you want to do is you want to start talking about the idea of going to other locations, the idea of things you could show her back at your house, the idea of fun things you could do together, and you want to be sort of saying them in a hypothetical way or even in a negative way. We start saying, oh, it's too bad we can't do this because you'd be so much fun, but I have to get up early in the morning. Or, if I knew you better, we could totally do this. Or, don't give me that look, nothing's going to happen between us tonight, but I appreciate the thought. So you start bringing up all these ideas, but again, you bring them up in the negative. The other thing that you're doing as you do this, you're doing what a friend of mine likes to call covering the exits. Essentially, you're giving the girl all the excuses that she's likely to give, because then she can't give them. So for example, you say, nothing's going to happen between us tonight, and she goes, no, nothing definitely is. Then you just look at her funny, be like, obviously, I just said that, right? So you've taken away the excuse. And what you're going to do by having this occur is you're going to hear the word no far less often. And no is, it's not that it actually kills the interaction, but it slows things down so much. Every time you hear no, think to yourself like, it just took like an extra half hour to have sex with her now, right? You don't want to be hearing no. You'd rather be hearing yes. Or at the very least, you say the no, she agrees, and you've addressed it, you've identified the objection, you can deal with it in sort of a logical or emotional manner. But again, it's on your terms rather than hers. The other thing that this does, which is really, really great, is it can actually get the girl to start chasing you. There's this idea of what we call last minute resistance. Last minute resistance is when you get the girl back to your place and then like the sex doesn't happen because she like feels slutty about it, or she just isn't in the mood yet, or she hasn't known you long enough, or whatever. But I like to say last minute resistance doesn't occur in the bedroom. I mean, it does obviously occur in the bedroom, but it occurs, or it's rooted in behavior that occurred way before the bedroom. It basically, dealing with last minute resistance, combating it and getting things to go your way later, occurs from the first words you have with the girl. So again, you want to be the one giving the objections instead of receiving them. The ideal scenario is actually you're giving the objections so much and she's so interested in you that she starts solving the objections for you. That's when you know you're really, really in a good mood or in a good place. So for example, if you say, I can't do anything, I have to get up early in the morning. And then she goes, no, wait, how early do you actually have to get up? Right, now she's trying to solve it for you. And you go like, oh, I have to get up at like 10. She's like, oh, no, that's not early. Right now you can tell she's really down. It's a great way to screen for what's going on. Okay, so you want to be seeding these ideas early on. I can't do this, we can't do this, it would be fun if, et cetera, et cetera. And then she's going to give whatever objections she's going to give. At that point, it becomes less about game and less about being an attractive man. We're going to assume that you've already done that. It becomes more about problem solving. It's finding a solution to the problem. And the guys who are the best at game aren't necessarily the guys who are the smoothest or the sexiest. They're the guys who figure out a way to solve the problem in a smooth way. And oftentimes the best way to solve the problem is the reason why not is the reason why. So for example, she's like, I can't go home with you, I barely know you. Be like, oh, no, well, first of all, you don't necessarily have to go home, but I want to hang out with you a little bit more. And the reason why we need to hang out more is exactly that. I mean, if I'd known you for 10 years, for sure we'd just hang out some later time. But given that it's all so new and beautiful, I just want to hang out with you now and make sure that we really do get to know each other. So yeah, that's exactly why we should hang out a little more. But no, let's not go home yet. Let's just go to this other place, right? So here what you're doing is you're softening the objection, right? If she had an objection to going home, you don't fight her on it. You don't ever go like head to head. Think of this not as like karate or like, think of it not as boxing where it's force against force, more as like sort of like judo or like jujitsu where it's like you use their force and their momentum against them or to your advantage, more technically, not against them because it should be a win-win, okay? But so you're using the momentum in favor of the outcome you want as opposed to fighting it directly. So here you don't, fight for let's go back to my place. If they objected to it, you say, no, that's fine. Let's go to this other place instead. But it is so important that we get to know each other. And then you move the interaction along, you move it one step closer to where you're eventually gonna go. And you handle one more objection, right? And you're smooth about it. The reason why not is the reason why. Okay, so that's what you wanna be trying to do is exactly that sort of a thing. One other thing to keep in mind is leading, okay? Leading and compliance, actually. So the more that you say, let's do this, and she says yes, the easier it will be to have that occur later. So for example, if throughout the date, throughout the night, you're saying, hey, let's go over here, let's sit over here, hey, let's do this, here, let's order this, hey, come here, let me show you this. And she's moving 5 feet with you or 10 feet with you or going along with it, or when you say, hey, come here, and she comes and sits next to you. Every single time you say, let's do something, and she says yes, you're building a precedent in the relationship that she has complied with you. And the more that occurs, the more it's going to continue to occur because that becomes the nature of the relationship. And the more time she's used to, you said, let's do this, she said yes, and then it ended in something positive. The more times that ends in a positive way, the more comfortable she is that the next escalation will be towards something positive, okay? So just to reiterate, here's what you want to be doing. A, you want to be escalating on all 4 levels. Physical, emotional, conversational, and logistical. You want to be escalating all 4 levels. You want to be actively moving the girl around and leading throughout the date. You want to be getting the objections out of the way early, and the way you do that is by seeding all the ideas, but seeding them in either the negative or seeding them in the hypothetical so that you don't get direct resistance. Every time you get direct resistance, it's not a bad thing. You will hear no every once in a while. Just know that it will slow the process down. And hearing no, it doesn't mean it's off. No does not mean no. It means not yet. But it does slow things down. Every no you hear is probably going to make it take longer overall, okay? So you want to be efficient about that, and you want to be as indirect as possible. And ideally, what you should be going for is getting her to chase you. That's what we're really looking for. Once she's chasing you, once she's escalating on you more than you're escalating on her, that's when you're a good spot. So along with that, with physical escalation, for example, say you go to kiss the girl, you know that moment, like you kiss a little, and then you can tell like you're just about to go at it. At that moment, what I like to do is pull away, and then she'll be kissing, like, or trying to kiss you, and you pulled away. And then all of a sudden, instead of you being this try-hard guy who's trying to get all physical, you're this gentlemanly guy who's taking it slow, and she's the girl who wants something from you. Once you've flipped that script, once you've kind of flipped that switch in her head of she's chasing you instead of you chasing her, you're in a really good spot. So that's another key fundamental thing to getting her home. Last thing, and very, very, very important, is the idea of baby stepping. Okay, baby stepping is the idea that it's very hard for you're sitting in a bar with a girl to say, hey, let's go back to my place. First of all, don't say let's go back to my place, but even if you say, hey, let's go 5 minutes down the road, let me show you something cool, let me show you whatever, that's a big commitment because it's a long journey, and it's harder for her to see the idea of coming back from it, right? That sounds really bad. It sounds like you're gonna murder her, but coming back from it. But actually, legitimately, girls could be scared, right? So you wanna get them comfortable with going with the smaller little steps along the way so that they are comfortable for the bigger steps later. So instead of saying, hey, let's go all the way from A to Z, let's say let's go from A to B. Say instead of going from the bar to your place, go from the bar to the front of the bar. And then from the bar to just outside of the bar where you can walk around. And then from there to like maybe another bar nearer your place. And then from there to like the park, and then from there to your place. Now you don't necessarily have to take that many steps, but the idea is you do it little by little with whatever they're comfortable with instead of all at once, okay? Lastly, and this is absolutely huge, listen to this if you listen to nothing else, the philosophy of taking a girl home. Here it is. This is a line that one of my friends says that is literally the best line you could ever have. He says, we're gonna go somewhere lovely that you will love. And if you don't, well then you can go home. And it doesn't really matter because either way, I'm having a good time and that's what really matters, isn't it? Okay, now let's dissect that. We're gonna go somewhere lovely that you will love. Okay, we're going to a good place. That's important. He doesn't oversell it though. If it's a really good place, you don't have to oversell it. Nobody has to convince you that like backstage to a rock concert's cool or that like the Super Bowl is cool, right? It's just known. You say, hey, let's go to the Super Bowl. You don't go, hey, let's go to the Super Bowl, which is this really crazy, amazing event. It's incredible. No, don't oversell it. That actually makes it seem less cool if you oversell it. Next, the most important part. We're gonna go somewhere lovely that you'll love. And here's the important part. And if you don't, then you can go home. Or if you don't, you can leave, okay? It's not a huge commitment. You don't sell how amazing the place is, you sell how low risk it is. Because if the girl's already spent time to come out on a date with you, spent the time on a date, probably gotten a little bit physical with you, she already likes you. You don't have to do more in that regard. What you need to do is convince her that it's safe and okay, right? So you sell the money back guarantee. You don't sell this is an amazing product, you sell the money back guarantee. So you say, you know what? Come hang out. If you don't like it, you can leave. No big deal. And then the last part's good too. You say, and it doesn't matter either way because I'm having a good time and that's what really matters. That says to the girl, you're in it for the experience. You're not in it for the conquest. You're not in it to get one over on her, to have sex with her, or to put another notch on your bedpost. You're just in it for the experience. You're in it to have a good time. And that indicates that it'll probably be a good time for her as well, okay? So remember that phrase. That's the ultimate phrase of the poll, and that's what you want to be conveying in all your actions throughout the night. We're gonna go somewhere lovely that you will love, and if you don't, then you can go home. And it doesn't matter either way because I'm having a good time and that's what really matters. That should be your whole date in a nutshell, and that should be the way that you pull, all right? So that's how you get a girl home. Move her around, baby step her, escalate, take your time, and again, keep it on your terms, phrase it in the negative, and make her chase, all right? Go do it. You're gonna get crazy success, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with this particular advice. Take care.